Indeed, you have seen our guest there. We have with us Mr. Adebayo Shittu, who is the former Minister of Communications and former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Oyo State. Sir, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
It's my very big pleasure being here again.
It's good to see you.
I'm okay, I thank God.
Well, the issues are a lot to chew on. I mean, listening to the Minister for Information there, appearing before the House Committee set up to look into the matter. There's some of the things that he said that a number of Nigerians will question. So, for instance, when he says that it wasn't because Twitter pulled down the president's tweet, that's why Twitter was suspended in Nigeria. Some people will have huge questions about that. First and foremost, what are your comments on that?
Well, you see, it is the Yorubas have an adage. They say, "Eniti obani wo yewu, kulimontan shenibe." Translated into English is, if you are not in a room with me, you most probably wouldn't know what is going on there. Lai Muhammad is in government. Lai Muhammad has information that most of us Nigerians may never have. So we must continue to presume that government and government officials are telling the truth as they see it. A lot of these things cannot be in the marketplace. So for me, this system of cynicism by Nigerians about everything that government does is not in the best interest of the security and stability of our nation.
Yeah, but speaking more honestly and more objectively, when the president's statement was removed and the minister was questioned, he did indicate, he defended very strongly why the president made those statements, and he did indicate that it was not going to be the end. So when Twitter was suspended, it didn't come to many people, even though we doubted that it was going to get to that extent, but it didn't come to many people as a surprise. So if that is the case, can he really say that it wasn't because the president's statement was
I have said it.
down?
Information that is available to government, we may never have it. That's one. Secondly, was it even right for Twitter to, take down the statement of the president, which must have been made in reaction to some other thing which was prevailing at that time? That in itself is an act of bad faith on the part of Twitter. And come to think of it, you don't look at the president as one Nigerian. He represents the sovereignty of this country.
Lawyers have had different things to say about that. First and foremost, I know we spoke to a lawyer on this program, and he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. And he said that the president did not relate with Twitter. The president's presence on Twitter was not done as a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But was done as
Muhammadu Buhari. No, let me land. As Muhammadu Buhari. And that's the name on his Twitter handle. I mean, and some people will say that there is a differentiation because in the United States, there is the handle of the president of the United States. And oftentimes when that handle is done with that particular president, they usually archive that particular handle. The next president has another handle apart from his personal handle. You are a lawyer.
You see, it's a matter of style. You may have 2, 3, 4, even 10 senior advocates who may disagree on an issue. It is only when a judge has given a decision one way or the other that you can say this is the state of the law. So the fact that some lawyers have disagreed, the fact that something happened in the U.S., we are not in the U.S., we are Nigerians, and we have a president in Muhammadu Buhari. So when he makes a statement, particularly that relates to the governance of this country, I mean, it would be preposterous for anybody to say that he didn't make that statement in this capacity as president. I mean, if a president says, we are going to buy 10 aeroplanes for Nigerian Air Force, and somebody says because he didn't put President Muhammad Buhari, so he made that statement only in his private capacity. I mean, I think that is less than logical.
Well, the president, you must admit, though, wears many hats. I don't want to go into that now. I don't want to stretch the argument because, you know, some people say that the president wears many hats. So he's his father, his husband, he's many things to many different people, depending on his relationship. When the president is dealing
with his wife at home,
indeed,
he doesn't relate to Nigeria as such. It may not, but it may also relate to Nigeria. I mean, you know, because consequences, you know, if the president does this, I mean, it has implications, particularly depending on what time, where, and all of that.
Well, you wear many hats. You wear many hats as well. You have been Minister for Communications. You understand the implications of this on the economy, this particular suspension. You understand how difficult it is to build a following on different social media platforms. You know, when the minister says, oh, we have considered these economic implications to Nigerians who use Twitter and that they can go and use other platforms, you know how difficult it is. The fact that you have 200,000 followers on Twitter doesn't mean that you'll have the same number of following on Instagram, where you might have no presence, or maybe that's not your preference. When you look at those kinds of implications, do you really think that the federal government has been fair to small businesses who use Twitter, for instance, for advertisement?
Well, I think from the beginning, a few things have not been okay. For instance, the government talks of the fact that Twitter was actually acting, you know, unlawfully because it was not registered. You know, I have not looked at the law, you know, requiring registration of establishments like that. But if there's indeed a law, particularly with either NBC or NCC, because these have to be looked into. The fact that something has been done in a wrong manner, even for 1,000 years, does not legitimate it, does not make it lawful. So and I'm happy that at least the federal government has given an opening for Twitter. Twitter made the first initiative to want to engage with the federal government. And the president promptly set up a committee of very senior government officials, including, you know, I mean, more than 50% of who are lawyers, very senior lawyers, to look into this. And I hope that something good will come out of this.
Honourable former minister, I haven't even gotten to the question of licensing, because the question of licensing is another very tricky kettle of fish. We understand how Play Stores work, and we know that they are an international thing. The moment you have a mobile device, you have internet data connection, then you can, you know, you can have the Play Store, whatever device you're using on your phone. Are we going to ask all of those apps, for instance, to now start getting licensing from the different countries?
If the law says so, they must comply. If the law says so, we have to look at the law.
Wouldn't we have to at least learn from how it operates in other places? What is happening
here is not limited to Nigeria. You know, a number of countries are also trying to regulate, because if you are doing something that is capable of affecting me positively or negatively, I must not be disinterested in whether you act rightly or you act wrongly. These are issues, because it is easy to be carried away by emotions or sentiments.
But considering what I'm asking you to look at is considering just how apps work. How realistic is it? And there are over 1 million apps. How realistic is it for us to now say, for any app to operate in Nigeria, you will have to come and register with us and get a license before our own citizens who might be able to, but even if it's something that's going to benefit or leapfrog certain things that we do here? Isn't it a tad... I mean, even the banks, all the banks in Nigeria, most of them, or let me say all, usually have their own apps. Are you now going to start telling all of them to go and get registered and be licensed?
Before banks start using apps, they must have been registered one way or the other. You know, so if the law, what I'm saying, if the law requires you to get registered before you operate, of course, it is only sensible that once you register and once you follow all the regulations, you won't have a problem. All of these companies are in business.
You don't think that sort of law will be obnoxious? I mean,
it
will be a cumbersome law.
It will become cumbersome only when it is challenged in court, because Nigeria as a country has all the powers to make laws. When these laws are made, particularly by the National Assembly, and assented to by, Mr. President, it becomes a law. Once it becomes a law, anybody who has any objection would have the, privilege of going to court to challenge it. And so we will have to rely on the outcome of such, challenges. So there's nothing which is impossible. There's nothing which is, obnoxious with regard to the power of the country as a sovereign country to make laws.
So I see you wearing your hat now as an attorney general, as a former attorney general and as a lawyer.
Thank God.
But I'm asking, as a former minister of communications, if you were to review the implications of that, how will it hamper the development of a digital economy?
Look, there's nothing which is, which is very difficult to do. If I'm Minister of Communications, I must be guided by laws. If you are a Minister of Commerce, if you are Minister of Commerce, or you are Minister of Works, or whatever ministry, the law comes first.
Indeed.
It is the law that guides every other thing.
Is the law meant to impede our development, or is it supposed to aid and ensure that we do not...
If you are in business of even developing society, and the law says you should get registered, why should you have a problem getting registered? I mean, how long does it take to get registered? I mean, these are issues because the law and order is one very important...
No, to get registered is different from getting a license.
No,
they are two different things.
They are not they are not different. You get registered through your licensing. Let me tell you, maybe you would say that, for instance, if you take MTN comes into Nigeria, registers with the Corporate Affairs Commission.
Indeed.
Then it applies for a license.
Exactly.
These things work together.
They are two different things.
These things work together.
They work together, but they are two separate things.
Agreed. They are two different things. But if the law says those processes must be, gone through, then it is only proper for the sake of ensuring law and order in society. You go through the process, and once you go through the process, you come free to operate within the laws which guides you.
I'm not saying that Nigeria doesn't have powers to make whatever laws suit it. I mean, for its own. I'm only asking whether or not you see implications, what the implications are for everything, for every action that we take. There will be an advantage and there will be a disadvantage, no matter how well intended that particular action is. If the federal government says, henceforth, any social media company or any company at all that is going to have an app operating in Nigeria will have to obtain a license, there will be implications for that.
You see,
as a former Minister of Digital Economy, what implications do you see?
Well, you see, what is important, which we must remind ourselves, is that when you are talking of process of lawmaking, it's not about one man making a law. It's about a national assembly. And in the case of Nigeria, you have more than 400, representatives of the people making the law. Before laws are made, there will be public hearing. People who are interested one way or the other would come forward to make their representation. It is after they've gone through this meal that the law gets enacted by the National Assembly and goes to the executive for its assent. If for one reason or the other the executive feels, uneasy, it may return it and say, look, we are not comfortable with this. But once the law becomes law, after all this, you don't start talking of maybe it will be inconveniencing to one operator or one subscriber or whatever. So I think we should look at it from the point of view that we have in Nigeria. We want to ensure that Nigeria is properly governed by laws, and in the process, I mean, those making these laws are also Nigerians. They would have taken care of all the sentiments, all the sensibilities, all the potential problems, So once it becomes a law, until it is challenged successfully in court, you don't start, creating imaginary problems as if these problems are insurmountable going through, proper processes.
As it stands right now, there is no law preventing Twitter and all the other social media apps from operating in Nigeria, is there?
For now, I do not know of any. But what I'm saying is government has the right to initiate, considering, issues which arise in the processes.
Can government just say we have banned the executive arm of government say we have banned or we have suspended an entity, and that's it.
If they don't have that power, they would not,
I'm asking you as,
no,
as
I
a
mean,
lawyer now.
I don't.
Do you think they have such powers?
No, I don't know what the situation of the law is because it has never come before me as a lawyer, and I've never had cause to look into the law to see what guides, these operators or what does not guide it. But our government, the government of Nigeria has come up to raise issues and to, give, an inkling of what should operate. And until we go through those processes. I mean, one of the issues that has arisen as a result of what government has done now is the fact that some people went to the ECOWAS court. The ECOWAS court has made an interim order. We would have to wait and see what is government's response in the judicial, system. What will be their, reactions to it. I'm
sure my colleagues will have questions for you, gentlemen.
Yes, indeed. Well, at the moment, but more so in consideration of that interim order, does that then mean that, or better say, let me put it this way. Yes, government has said Twitter needs to be incorporated in Nigeria for them to function as a foreign company. But when they then say that, well, if anyone uses that media platform, they will be prosecuted. What laws do you think that they might be relying on to prosecute anyone who does so?
Well, I do not represent the Ministry of Justice on this program. The government has said it will prosecute. It is when we get to court, it is when they initiate that process of prosecution that both the general public and those being prosecuted will know what will be their defenses. For now, I will not want to put myself in any system which would, which will make me look like somebody who is talking out of ignorance.
Yeah, but as a very senior lawyer, is it the way it works such that if one is said to have committed an offense, if one is arrested, it's only when you get to court, then you know what laws you will be facing, haven't been arrested?
You will not know under which, it will be difficult for you to know under which law you are being prosecuted. And it is not for me to guess under which law. So I would rather wait to see under what law government wants to prosecute before. I mean, if I was defending a client who's being prosecuted, of course I would have to wait. I wouldn't want to jump the gun.
But is it normal for anyone?
That would be the more cautious approach to this issue.
But is it normal for anyone to be said to have been arrested based on a law that he or she doesn't know about until you get to court?
For that, is known to have been arrested. When a person is arrested, you will be told the offense he has committed. And you don't start presuming that this law or that law will be the basis for your arrest or potential prosecution. So it's a waiting game. Let us wait and see.
So, in other words, you are saying that unless there is a basis, a legal basis, the police cannot go to anyone and say you are hereby under arrest for what? Because before you can be prosecuted in court, you need to first of all be arrested. My assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, is before anyone can be prosecuted in court. Before anyone can be arrested, the person will have to be, the basis for the arrest has to be read out to the person. So and it's only after an arrest has been made that someone can be taken to court. So do I wait to get to court before I am told the reason I am arrested?
Of course, you won't know under which law you are being arrested. You will be informed of what offense you have committed and which law you have violated. And so you have to wait till then.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. I mean, the person is going to read the rights to me, read the offense to me. You are hereby under arrest for what exactly? Before I am taken to court, right?
that point, even before getting to court at the police station, you'll be informed of what, under what law you have been arrested. So it's better to wait till then.
But if you look at Section 36(12) of the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, it says, subject as otherwise provided by this Constitution, a person shall not be convicted of a criminal offense unless that offense is defined and the penalty thereof is prescribed in a written law, and in this subsection, a written law refers to an act of the National Assembly or a law of a state, any subsidiary legislation or instrument under the provisions of a law. So, it means they can't be arrested if there's no such law.
Look, the law is very clear. That provision of the Constitution is very, very clear. It says under a law, they will tell you the law under which you are being arrested and under which you have been taken to court. Until then, you don't have to bother your head.
Fully then. So what then do you make of...
There is no such law.
So what then do you make of that, of the position of the ECOWAS court, that made that ruling?
And I know I have not committed an offense, and I know there are processes he must follow by arresting me, telling me under what law I have offended. So why must I bother my head? And why must you bother your head if there's no law?
People must be bothered because they fear the government could bully people.
How would they bully? They must go to court.
Government is government.
They must still take.
Could bully.
Government cannot arrest somebody and just jail him.
Yes.
There are procedures.
It is because there is no law. That's the reason why the Attorney General said when you get to court, you will know under what law you have been prosecuted.
Not only on this matter, on every matter. Mm-hmm. If you are suspected to have committed an offense, you are arrested and told what offense you have committed.
Indeed. But lawyers know that the laws are not hidden. They are not made in
Do you know how many laws we have in this country?
Indeed. They are
Do you know how many laws we have in this country?
We remember the laws when the situation arises. In
So,
this particular situation right now, what law exists to prosecute people?
Let us wait. Let us wait for those seeking to prosecute to come and tell us under what law we have been arrested. It's a very simple matter as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, gentlemen, sorry to interrupt you.
Let me just quickly, take on that question I asked earlier. So, what, in your opinion, then, are the implications of that ruling of the ECOWAS court that says the federal government should hold all action against anyone until the suit has been determined by the ECOWAS court?
I want to imagine. Can I come in?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I want to imagine that those who went to court to preempt a potential action of government to start arresting people. As of today, we have not heard of anybody who has been arrested on the basis of that. And I want to believe that our government, being a law-abiding government, would respect the order of the ECOWAS court, because that court is a court of competent jurisdiction which Nigeria has assented to. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think government will do anything untoward government. If government has any objection to that, ruling, it has processes of appealing the ruling.
Does that then, because we thought that that provision of the 1999 Constitution is meant to ensure that there's no ambiguity in all of those, such that government cannot just come up and arrest anyone for a law that is not even stipulated or properly spelled out. We thought that was why that provision is clearly there.
He's still talking. I'm not hearing him.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, you can come again.
Yeah, but we thought that that provision is properly spelled out to avoid any ambiguity or arbitrariness of any organization or government just arresting anyone for any laws that have not been properly spelled out, perhaps in this case.
I want to restate my position. Those who went to court to preempt a possible action by government. That court has given a ruling. I believe government will respect it. That is one. Number two, if somebody threatens to arrest me for an offense and I know I have not committed offense, I will not be apprehensive of anything. I will have to wait and see under what law I will be arrested. If there's no such law, why should anybody bother about it? About
in other words,
possible, arrest by government.
Oh, so does that suggest that this is an empty threat?
Honestly, well, I don't know. I don't have comment. I don't know whether it is an empty threat or not. What I'm saying, and I expect that you would understand this. Your position is that there's no law. I don't know of any law under which they want to arrest. So if I don't know of any law and you are sure there was no law, why must we be apprehensive that government will start arrest? If government arrests, will they not take you before a court of law? Okay. Or when they take you to a court of law, will they just say that because Mr. President wants you arrested? Will they not bring up a law, with which you can, contest it, or against which you can contest your arrest? And if there's an unlawful arrest, of course, there are legal remedies also for that.
Okay. Do you think that? Okay. I hope I can get this in before the break. Do you think there was proper consideration on the economy aspect of this now? Because when government says there are other social media platforms that people can use, many would have thought that they would have put in place measures, because for those whose revenue depend on this platform, who are not on those other platforms, it suggests that there was no consideration, no provision on the part of government to ensure that those businesses don't lose as much as they are losing today.
With due respect to you, that question is neither here nor there. What is important is there a law in existence regulating activities of group of people or certain businesses? If the laws are there, the laws must be enforced, no matter the consequences of that. That is my understanding of the situation. So, but if there's no law, of course, nobody should feel threatened.
Wait, in other words,
by any possible action of government.
No, it's not about people feeling threatened now. I'm talking about the economies, the businesses, the MSMEs that have been hit as a result of the suspension of Twitter use in Nigeria.
I don't have any facts about that. I don't have facts about all statistics of businesses or whatever. I don't have. What I'm looking at is just the law, the law perspective, and I know that if there's no law, nobody can be threatened.
All right, we'll show you some piece of information when we return in just a moment after the break. Do stay with us.
Take a listen to this audio conversation.
Yes, I don't bring it to my house.
Okay, you take it to your house?
No, I don't have to bring it to my house. It's a lot of money.
Yes. So where? Because I am rushing to the airport now.
Yeah, they're at the airport in the aircraft.
And before they can come over now, unless I send somebody to the airport, I was coming. I can't. By the time they come, I should be in the chambers. I have a lot of things to do myself.
Is there anybody you trust I can give it to, or maybe I should postpone my China till tomorrow?
No, it's okay. I would arrange with someone. Let me give you his number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
His number is 080.
Hold on. 080.
36. 51. 33. 55.
What's his name?
Yeah, TJ.
Sorry?
TJ.
TJ?
No, TJ. TJ.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ.
So I'll give him the balance. That's
okay.
$2.5 million, yeah?
That's right. Hold on. I'm calling him to be sure he's finished.
This is the genesis of what has culminated in the conviction of Farouk Lawan, the former chairman of the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Fuel Subsidy Probe. The former lawmaker faced a 3-count charge bordering on asking for and collection of $500,000 bribe from the chairman of Zenon Petroleum and Gas Limited, Mr. Femi Otedola. For 8 solid years since 2013, both the prosecution and defense counsel tried to prove their case before the court. But almost 6 years after the case was transferred to Justice Angela Otaluka of the FCT High Court in 2015, it's now Judgment Day. Delivering her verdict, Justice Otaluka affirms that both the evidence before the court and the testimonies from defense and prosecution counsel established the case against the defendant and found him guilty on counts 1, 2, and 3. The defendant is accordingly sentenced to a 7-year jail term for count 1, another 7 years for count 2, and 5 years for count 3, sentences the judge says will run concurrently. The court also orders the defendant to pay the sum of $500,000 to the federal government account. However, the defense counsel expresses his displeasure with the judgment and vows to appeal it.
We are clearly dissatisfied with the judgment delivered by the court for very serious legal issues, and there is no doubt that we are appealing the judgment.
This conviction may likely not be the end of the case, but for now, the former lawmaker is driven away from the court premises in a Hilux van belonging to the Nigeria Correctional Service.
All right, I was talking about the economic implication of this, and I had to reference NetBlocks. They are an organization. They cost the estimates of the economic impact of an internet disruption, that's including mobile data blackout or app restriction. And they have looked at this, and at the moment, they estimate the amount Nigeria has lost as a result of this suspension of the microblogging platform Twitter to be in the region of 37 billion naira. So clearly, that's an amount that the economy cannot just afford to lose like that. So yes, much as government is trying to ensure we still have a country, but can they afford to gloss over this amount of money as a result of this suspension?
Well, I really don't have any idea about it, and I want to believe that those in government, particularly the economic players, the Minister of Finance and National Planning, would be the appropriate people to look into that. I'm a man of law, I'm not a man of figures or finances.
Well, I know lawyers also talk about the law with a human face, and having been in government, so you understand the thinking, such that it doesn't come across to people as though it wasn't properly thought out. There was perhaps only one-dimensional nature of thought that went into this one. That's the way some people think this is.
Well, it has happened already, and efforts are being made to reconcile both government and Twitter, and I think we should give that a chance. Once the negotiations succeed, I think, the economy in that direction will bounce back.
Okay. If you could just tell me, there was a report that was played while we were on break about the long-drawn court process involving Farouk Lawan. Eventually, he's got to do his time now, even though the lawyers have said that they are going to appeal all of that. But perhaps being a lawyer yourself, many have time and again spoken about the way justice is delivered, the length of time that this took. If you could perhaps start from there, is this the best that we could get? Is there any thought that, hey, who knows, perhaps this judgment could have come a lot quicker than it did? Because if it stays this long, many think, look, there's too much time that goes into this before this kind of judgment was delivered.
Well, it's very unfortunate that our legal process course, grinds very slowly, but it grinds very surely also. I believe the authorities are taking steps to reform the process and abridge time and all of that. You know, it is often said that it takes two to tango. Even if a judge is anxious to expeditiously handle a case, he won't completely have control over what lawyers will do, because regulations about legal procedures, you know, provides for time. There's a time to, you know, serve a notice. There's a time within which to respond. And then you have so many interlocutory applications coming in from lawyers. At times you have, you know, lawyers who, you know, may find a way, one way or the other, to terminate the case, very, quickly, you know, thinking, for instance, you know, there could be preliminary objections. It takes time. When a preliminary objection is argued in court, you know, there will be a ruling. That ruling could be appealed and all of that. You know, but I think that both the Nigerian Bar Association and the judicial authorities, you know, are brainstorming to ensure that, you know, processes are abridged. You know, all of this has been done or is being done, you know, so as to ensure that justice is not destroyed on the altar of, you know, timeousness, you know. But I think at the end of the day, we have gotten to the end of that case. It's very unfortunate that it has happened, but, you know, I think all persons affected one way or the other would have learned lessons, you know, from it.
Okay, even though they say they will appeal, so I guess we'll wait and see what happens as they proceed with that one. But then, let me bring this in. A couple of days ago, young people in your party did say that they seem to be getting the short end of the stick. They want a lot more political inclusion. They seem to, they're not satisfied with the status quo at the moment. I mean, having been there yourself, I think you were about 26 when you were in the State House of Assembly. Do you think they have a point?
Well, yes and no. No, because I taking myself as a very humble example. I got into the House of Assembly at age 26, the time I became a lawyer in 1979. I didn't need anybody's prodding, you know, to contest election. The Yorubas have this adage, Omo to ba sinpa lobi e ma ngbe. It is a child that raises the hands that gets lifted up. It doesn't come on the platter of gold. You know, so I want to believe that the initiative of the young ones by bringing themselves together is a good thing. But I'm happy that the vice president actually advised that you don't expect that you will suddenly be able to push aside, you know, those who have been there. See yourselves not just as leaders of tomorrow, but partners in the progress and development of today. Nobody excludes anybody deliberately. The political atmosphere is a competitive atmosphere. Everybody must compete, you know, for relevance. And I'm happy that at several levels, a lot of young ones who are active and intelligent, you know, are coming up. But from my own little experience, I always advise, having regard to my personal experiences, that it is always better to develop a second address before coming into politics. I recall that, you know, when I came in, after 4 years, I became a member of the House at 26. I became a commissioner for Home Affairs Information at age 30. And then the Buhari first coming came and, you know, drove us out. If I was not a lawyer, I would have been in big trouble. Because for those who did not have professions, you know, to fall back on, it became problem. Social, they became maladjusted. They couldn't, their social status had risen to a level. But after that, when, you know, the thing crumbled, it became a problem for them to decide where do they go. There were no more salaries. They could not go back to their teaching jobs and all of that and so on. So I always advise that there's really no need to really rush. Try and develop a profession, try and develop a business, so that when the bubble bursts in politics, there's no going forward, you have something to fall back on.
Well, you can also
want to encourage as many youths who want to participate in politics, that once they are really ready to come in, nobody stops them. The process is competitive. They must be ready to compete with all others. And if anybody, like the Yorubas would say, so they are welcome, and the current government and our party is prepared to continue to encourage the youth to come in.
Well, clearly you would also have avowed to the fact that, agree to the fact that quite a number of youths in the country today, not just in your party, very well established and quite organized. Some reference the NSAS example as how youth can organize themselves. There are those who will say that it's a different kettle of fish altogether from the Second Republic to this Fourth Republic that we're in now. Some would say that the role of money, politics, the role of money in politics today is a lot more than when you came in at the time. And there are those who argue that the Nigerian youths are not financially strong enough to take on government, to venture into politics the way you did back in time and the way those who have the money bags have it today. What would you say to them?
Well, I agree that money has become a very big problem, not only to the youth, I must say, even to most elders who are interested and capable of participating in the political process. We have situations now and it is not the party that is asking really for the money. It's the people, the electorate. You can imagine a situation where you go for campaigns, and what is interesting to the electorate is not the ideas that you want to establish in government. It's not how you want to, elevate them, socially, economically, and otherwise. But what do you have for them? So that really is a problem. And there's no way government can control that. What government and the party can control is, okay, youths, you want to contest election, okay, don't pay for forms. But they cannot, prevent the public, the electorate, from making demands on you. So that really is a problem, and it is a national problem, it's a social problem, which, I don't know the solution to it. Maybe when we get to a level that poverty has been drastically reduced in society, when people would appreciate their integrity, their dignity, their humanness, that look, I don't have a price tag. If you want me to vote for you, come and convince me as to your capabilities, your past experience, and your potential to improve society. Well, now, I doubt if there's any solution to that.
Well, there are those who would also be saying, like, if that is your position, then it will look like there is no way for the youth to go then. I mean, if the poverty problem is still as big as it is, then there is no way for the youth to go. But you also say that there is a way somewhere. So what would you recommend what would you be suggesting to the youths, whether in your party or not, who are completely tired of the way things are and have enough ideas to at least try to make a change? What counsel would you be giving to those youths now?
Well, my counsel, my advice is that they should continue to try and persuade as many people in their localities as possible. I know that for young people just coming in, maybe the first level they want to come in is either the local government, the councilorships, the chairman of local government, and maybe House of Assembly, House of Rep. Again, the truth is, the problem is not, limited to the youth. There are several people who have passed, the age of 40, who also want to contest and may not have the wherewithal. So it's a national problem, that honestly, you know, a lot of it will also now depend on luck. If you come from a community or a society where you can really, you know, get people to convince the people that, you know, even if you don't have money now, you hold greater promise to bring about development to your immediate community, perhaps you could be lucky.
So, again, I don't want to tie this to the social media, but some people would have said that it would have been a very veritable tool to be able to reach out to the young people, to invite them, to engage them, to feel the tempo, and even to get them to come along, you know, in whatever journey that the federal government is doing. Do you think that this disparity, because some people will say that what they also seem to understand from what has happened is that there is a huge divide between those who govern us and the majority of the governed who happen to be the youthful population. Do you think that we have missed an opportunity somewhat with our approach to how we have handled Twitter in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, Twitter is just a recent development. How does that affect that age-long problem of social inequalities, of people not having money? A lot of these youths don't even have access to education. A lot of them cannot pay school fees. They don't have parents who are buoyant enough to be able to pay school fees. A lot of them have to eke out a living. And I'm sorry to say this. I know that a lot of females are also, in order to acquire education, in order to have access, in order to have funding for education, may do a number of antisocial things, you know, to get it. So this is a very big problem. I also agree now that in view of the fact that the population of the youth is so huge, you are talking about, you know, more than 60% of the population, maybe using the social media, and it's not about Twitter alone. You know, the more popular thing is WhatsApp and, you know, a few other, you know, applications. Maybe through that, mobilizations could be done to ensure. But our party and the government does not have any problem about anybody, whether youth or elderly, coming into the political atmosphere. It's about the society. It's about being able to massively persuade people to, you know,
I ask that
patronize you.
In the face of, I mean, this is what the dailies are reporting this morning, that they're threatening to suspend Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, others. When you see stories like this...
you see, well, I don't know. I mean, this is what I'm reading from the press. I'm sure that if you have 10 newspapers and you look at that same story, you may find different stories on that same issue. So, I mean, with due respect to
But let us go. I mean, let us assume without considering that this is the main story, right?
I don't know. I don't know what is, if there is any sort of threat, I don't know. But what
would you think is a wise approach?
To do what? I mean, they won't threaten without, if nobody has offended, nobody will be threatened. I don't imagine that they'll just be blanket, you know.
No, as a result, because the federal government, just a moment, sir. Yes. The federal government insists that it was not the Twitter pulling down the president's statement. So we're assuming that there was no offense, and as such, you know, it is a need to regulate. If that is now the situation, the chances are very high that this need to regulate could extend to these other platforms, and there could be
I don't see it
a blanket suspension.
I don't see anybody who really wants to be in business. There's no place where businesses are done without regulations. I mean, I could have my car, for instance. I could have my money, buy my car. The fact that I have my money and I buy my car by myself does not mean I could drive without taking driving license or taking vehicle license. You know, if I want to do, you know, maybe any other business for that one, I'm a lawyer, trained lawyer. I have to pay fees in the court. I have to pay Nigerian Bar Association fees and all of that. So there are several regulations guiding virtually everything. It's often said that where there's no law, there's no offense. And to that extent, I want to believe, you know, that government would not just do anything in vacuum. You know, if there are no laws, there cannot be offenses, there cannot be penalties.
Well, we have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Early this morning. Adebayo Shittu is a former Minister of Communications and former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Oyo State.
It's my very big pleasure.
Thank you once again for coming on Sunrise Daily. Well, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be switching to another problem which affects young people mostly. Do stay with us.